Shalom, ladies. Welcome back. This is our verse by verse study of Proverbs 31, and we are on verse 22. This is going to be a little bit of a difficult one because this is a topic that's not really discussed a lot between believers, but I think it is a very important topic. And if you're uncomfortable, this is unfortunately one of those things that we need to discuss. And that is the intimacy, not only between us and Abba Father, as a woman of valor and the bride to be, but this is our intimacy with our husbands. So we're going to see that the woman of valor builds her internal intimacy with Yehovah with joy and bonds with her husband through sexual intimacy with no reserve or manipulation. And there's a lot of women who struggle with this part. But you see how the woman of valor, there's a whole lot of things that we need to become whole in. There's a whole lot of areas that we need to look at. It's not just our relationship with Father, service to our children and the community, but to our husbands as well. So let's have a look at this verse further. So Proverbs 31:22 says, "She, the woman of valor, makes herself coverings of tapestry. Her clothing is silk and purple." Proverbs 7:16 says, "I've decked my bed with coverings of tapestry." This is exactly the same wording, with carved works, with fine linen of Egypt. The difference is, this one is the woman of valor. This one's the woman of valor. This one is a seductress talking. So we need to be very careful, because this covering of tapestry is something that is showing the intimacy, but how are we, expressing that? And there are harlots out there that use the bed for the wrong thing, and then there are the woman of valor who is supposed to use the bed for the right thing. Now, Robin has expressed this very nicely. So if you've got the Woman of Valor book, then you can join me on page 99 as we read a few quotes. This verse above invites us to consider the private arena. As we think about bed coverings, a question comes to mind. What is the purpose of a bed? The two obvious answers are for rest and intimacy. So let's first look at what the rest is. Page 100. In Genesis 2:2 it says, "And for the seventh day Elohim completed his work which he had done, and he desisted Vahishabat on the seventh day from all his work which he had done." When we observe Sabbath rest, we discover it is not only an escape from ordinary, but a way to be truly attentive to life. To borrow from the words of my husband Grant, this is now Robin talking, as he commented on this passage, if we consider that God's 6 days of work consisted of speaking, then the answer to our question, why did he need to rest, becomes very clear. The text reveals that on the seventh day, God was silent. He did no speaking. The word refreshed in the verb form of the word for soul, nefesh, a word related to breath. It is as if God breathed but did not speak. Instead of giving forth, he takes in. Instead of producing, he receives and enjoys what has been produced. This provides a beautiful picture into what the Sabbath should look like for us. Unfortunately, the Sabbath has become a heavenly gift. I'll read that again. Unfortunately, the Sabbath has become a heavenly gift that few believers desire to receive. The idea of resting for the purpose of enhancing one's connection with God and others is counterintuitive in our culture. God offers a quality of life to his people when we respond to his invitation to enter into a Sabbath rest, a rest that goes far deeper than resting physically. It is a time to reconnect with our loved ones and with God in an intentional manner and at a spiritual level. If we can but say no to the world's voice and yes to God's, we discover a joy that can only be experienced but not described. Page 101, A satisfying day's work means to show up, to be present and diligent, and gratefully perform the task God has placed before us. It makes no difference whether the task is performing brain surgery or changing a diaper. Both are necessary service to others and therefore to God. The woman of valor infuses her waking hours with meaningful life. She facilitates restorative and gratifying rest for her household. I doubt her bedroom is a place of chaos. No television blaring in the background, no toys scattered across the room, no heaps of clothes on the floor and piles of unfinished paperwork on the nightstand. Setting a tone for quality rest is important to her. While Sabbath rest facilitates internal intimacy with God, physical intimacy with her husband is another area where the woman of valor excels. She recognizes the importance of providing the sexual connection a husband craves in a way that is appropriate and satisfying. She doesn't withhold her affection in order to manipulate. She knows that she possesses a powerful way to draw him into a private, enriching, and even inspiring experience. The woman of valor knows how to bring correction to the shame introduced by Adam and Eve in the garden. In the bed, husband and wife can approach the naked joy the first couple experienced before the fall. Sex is powerful. So much so that most intense physical pleasure is the vehicle God uses to bring new life into the world. Is it any wonder the enemy wants to distort and misuse it? His goal is to corrupt the sexual relationship through shame and destruction. But God desires to restore the joyful, healthy physical relationship Adam and Eve initially enjoyed. Awkward? Now, I know a lot of women who really feel very uncomfortable being intimate. And I think it does get very difficult if you and your husband are disconnected. Because intimacy is such a personal thing. It's supposed to be such a beautiful thing between a husband and wife. And when our husbands make us feel unimportant, invaluable, we're disappointed because they're not living up to our picture of what we thought marriage should be or what we thought a husband should be, then it's even more difficult to get intimate with our husbands. But this again is something that you need to come before Father and repent to Father, because there's too many times that we as women step into a man's role because we feel they are failing. And they are going to fail. The more you take over their role, the more they are going to fail. And so it's very important for you to work on this aspect with your husband as well. Speak to your husband about his desires and where you feel that he's lacking and where he feels you lacking. Work on your intimacy. Win your husband again like you used to when you were dating, when you were trying to catch him and he was trying to catch you. Romance him a bit, send him a cute little text message during the day, no matter how busy you are. Make him excited about you again. Dress nicely when he gets home. My grandmother always said to me, and I was young, I think older people have so much wisdom, and the generations are losing it by learning from the older people. But my grandmother said to me, you know what, it's easy to catch a man. It's a whole different thing to keep a man. And I remember my grandmother was a stay-at-home mum. She, all her years, never worked, but her house was spotless. And I always saw her as what I understood the Proverbs 31 woman to be, and she did. She loved Abba Father. But she would be able to, she made clothes that it looked like it came from a boutique. People would even ask her, oh, what boutique did you buy your clothes at? She would be able to make cakes and biscuits and you name it. She cooked like you cannot believe. She even helped my grandfather when he started a orphan business to make leather handbags and purses, and so she was just a lady with so many talents. And you know what, whenever my grandfather came home, she was always dressed nicely. She'd always have her lipstick on. And she even said to me, because I remember saying to her as a teenager, I said, why do you put makeup on if you're just at home? And my grandmother would said, you always feel better when you put on your face. And that was a way that she would go, you know what, I'm still a lady, even though I'm cleaning, even though she's polishing her copper. She was still of that generation that should have a little doilies in her copper ornaments. She would put copper on all our baby shoes, our first baby shoes and things. And so she would always be polishing the copper and the brass and the silverware and things. And so she took pride in her home. She took pride in her appearance. And you could see, when she went out with my grandfather, who was a very well-known businessman, she always looked like she was coming out of a cover of a magazine, and that just made such an impression on me. And so I'll always try and be joyful when my husband gets home and greet him with a smile, and just be ready that your husband is excited to come home, that it's a joy for him to come home and not a burden. And that will add to your intimacy, ladies. You got to work on that intimacy. You got to work at making your husband feel appreciated, even though he might be falling short. So here's a few questions I want you to just think about. So we'll just sum up what the woman of valor is. She understands the importance of investing in both the public and private aspects of a relationship with her husband. Bed is for rest and intimacy and has a balance in these areas. She recognizes the importance of spiritual rest and physical rest. And ladies, that means not playing games or being on Facebook and multimedia till late at night, that you're exhausted when you wake up in the mornings. It's planning your time, being diligent with your time. The woman of valor understands that her satisfaction comes from showing up, being present and diligent, and gratefully performing the tasks Yeshua has placed before her. A woman of valor sees the marriage bed as something sacred and something to enjoy, and not as a tool of manipulation or even a chore. We see in the book of Revelation that the bride appearing before her bridegroom in the fine linen, bright and clean. This linen was woven from fibers of the righteous acts performed by the bride herself. She has carefully extracted valuable wisdom from every detail of her own experience and allowed eternal truth to make her garment even brighter. The bride has dressed herself, and she meets her groom wearing this priceless raiment. So you see how every day's acts adds to your righteous acts, adds to your righteousness. And that includes being loyal to your husband and being intimate with him. So here are some questions to ponder. Are you presenting yourself as a woman of valor or an adulteress by the garments you wear? You are supposed to be beautiful for your husband, and not try and get attention from men outside? Is intimacy with your husband something you enjoy and treasure and prepare for with excitement? Or is it a chore and something you have to do and something you avoid? You know, men always make jokes, oh yeah, she's got a headache again. But that's a reality, ladies, and it is sad. Do we do that with our Father then as well? Oh, I'm too tired to wake up and spend time with him. Oh, I've had such a rough day. I'm not going to pray now. If we're doing that with our Father, how much more are we doing that with our husbands? And then we wonder why our relationship with Father feels distant, and it feels like he's not answering our prayers, and we're struggling with things. And there's no, then we can understand why our husbands are distant and withdrawn and agitated, because they're feeling like the relationship is a burden. Do you rest weekly with your King Yeshua? Do you keep the Sabbath rest? Do you rest sufficiently enough physically to be effective, present, and diligent in your daily tasks? This is what I mentioned. Are you being busy with things that you shouldn't be, that's taking from your sleep that you're supposed to be having? Do you do the work Father has blessed you with gratefulness and joy? Remember, the task of raising children is a blessing. If you don't have children, whatever task Father has given you, whatever job, if that's cleaning the house, if that is going to a job, are you doing it to bring glory to Abba Father? Are you doing it with joy? Making dinner is supposed to be a joy for your family. It's a time for you to bless the food and bless your family through that. But I've just seen so many women in the world nowadays that the men end up cooking food because the women don't want to. They see it as a chore and they complain, and they just want a clean kitchen. Instead of seeing this as, hey, this is my way of blessing my family. I should be rejoicing because Father's given me the ability to feed my family. Because as you're feeding them physically, you're feeding them spiritually, if your attitude is right, if your spirit is right, because your spirit transfers onto your family. So we've got a lot to go and think about this coming week. And if you are struggling with intimacy and you're looking for a prayer to pray for your husband, and maybe go and ask Father, what is it that you have against your husband, and go and repent before Father, and go and wash your husband's feet and repent before him where you've stepped in where you shouldn't have. I'll be posting a prayer for marriages, and that you can pray and repent before Father, and maybe use it. Look where you have overstepped and taken over the role of the leader of the house, and maybe go to your husband and repent for those things. It's just a guideline, but maybe it will help you, and maybe it will make you see things that you didn't see before. I pray this has been a blessing for you. If you have any questions or you need prayer, just reach out. My contact details at the end of this video. Thank you very much, ladies, for joining me, and may Father just bless you this coming week. Shalom and shalom.